The sixth trend I'm seeing is this idea of social literacy and how important it is both at a personal and organizational level. And what I mean by this is just because there's tools out there, right, with social networks and whatnot, doesn't mean that we know how to use them for our purposes to be most effective in how we do this. And what I think is fascinating is, as I've spoken around the world, more and more colleges and universities and high schools and even middle schools are starting programs for digital literacy. Because they're realizing it's not just enough to, for example, it's not just enough to know how to read. When we all learned how to read in school, you could put a sentence together, but what was important was comprehension. Did you understand what the story meant? And then they tested you on that. But on the digital front of things, we really don't have that because it's in such nascent stages. But it's continuing to develop in terms of, yes, you have these tools and great, you know how to tweet, but should you be tweeting? And if so, right, what are the parameters? How do you make this actually accessible and educational? So I've broken this down into personal and organizational. I think key trends as part of the literacy program. On a personal front, can you create content? Whether that is indeed a tweet or an update, can you do it in a way that is professional, useful, relevant? Can you curate content? If you're not creating it, do people still see you as a resource, a go-to? Right? They used to call this being a maven in sort of the older advertising texts. Can you curate information where people know, oh, if for this type of information, you should go check out Susie's blog. She's got all of that. Can you curate that information? And can you connect? Can you make solid connections between other people, but also for yourselves? Because, the truth is, and I say this a lot when I speak to college students and even high school students, the beauty of the world today is that we have such great opportunity to do whatever we want, however we want to do it. But then the challenge is that now it's up to us to actually do it. So many times, even for career professionals, they never think about their personal brand until it's too late. It's one of those things you don't think about until you actually need it, but it really should be something you cultivate long before you actually need to utilize it. Very similar to the old school, right? Have a network, use your network, your digital footprint. And today, every single one of you has a digital footprint. Every single one of you. If I Googled your name, if I could get information on every one of you, and I'm really good at that, by the way. You should ask my exes. I'm a really good researcher. I've got this down. I can dig up dirt on you if I really want to. The only question that you have to answer isn't do you get a digital profile or not, or do you want a digital footprint or not, but how proactively do you want to help cultivate that digital footprint? How much of a say do you want in what that looks like? And that's really the only question you get to answer. Because if you don't define it, someone else will. At an organizational level, this means how quickly can you adapt? I know at an organization level like at NASA, especially when you work with government or anything public, that's a challenge. But for those who can actually help tackle that challenge in a smart way, really the opportunities are endless, because the future doesn't belong to people who put out a 5-year, 10-year plan and can stick to it. The future belongs to people who can see something happening, be able to pivot and take advantage of that. Because their time frames for how quickly things move are getting shorter and shorter. Aggregation. Can you aggregate all this information and all this data to make smart decisions internally, externally? And then authenticity. This is a really important one, because I like to joke that it's today harder to pretend to be a good human being or a good organization than it would take the effort to just be it. It takes so much these days to pretend to be something you're not, because it's forced us into this world of authenticity and transparency. You look at any politician, you look at anybody who's in the media, and how quickly information becomes public. But that's great if you can actually use that to your advantage. I think one of the great things that NASA's been able to do with all their social and their digital efforts is really humanize the brand. Make it more accessible, make it more authentic, so then it's not sort of this secret facility in Texas, right? That is, that who knows what they're really up to, but really by creating that sense of authenticity and connection.